All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Coach Dennis Stoic here with Modern Era Warriors. Welcome back to another Modern Era Warriors podcast where we bring on like minded people. Always amazing guests. So today we have Erwan Le Corre with us today. Amazing person. Again, a lot going on here. I'm going to jump right into a bio. It's a little bit longer bio, so bear with me here. Erwan is the founder of MovNat, amazing company, right? So his long passion for real world physical competency, his love for movement in nature, his extensive knowledge of physical education history, and his personal philosophy of life is what it's all about. He believes if everyone's universal and biological birthright to be strong, healthy, happy, and free. Erwan was born September 10th, 1971 in France. At home, the TV set had a black and white screen long time ago. You and I are up there in age. I had black and whites growing up as well when we first started, right? No remote control, no video games, no personal computers, no internet. It did not exist yet, right? Most leisure time was spent outdoors, running, crawling, climbing, jumping, pushing physical and mental limits, as well as doing judo. We have to talk more about that. I'm big into martial arts myself, part of a huge piece of my business. At age 15, Erwan was introduced to karate. He quickly became it became a great passion for him, um, which taught him virtues of discipline, methods, commitment. He completed the course of study. He successfully competed at a national level in France and received his black belt at the age of 18. That's an amazing feat. At 19, while living in Paris, Erwan was introduced to a hardcore philosophy of natural physical and mental training and lifestyle called Combat Vital. For 7 years, he trained in both natural and urban settings, day and night. He climbed bridges, balanced on heights, jumped from roof to roof, walked on all fours, swam in cold waters, practiced breath training and fight techniques. At 27, he went on to follow his own path, sailing, Olympic weightlifting, rock climbing, long distance triathlons, trail running, and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. At age 33, he started researching the rich and fascinating history of physical education in Europe, as he discovered several forgotten training methods, such as George Herbert's Nutrell. I believe I have it right. He found many similarities between these approaches and his own. By understanding his historical circumstances that led the old physical education and fitness methods to decline and fail to reach modernity. Erwan realized those ancient practices could be revived in different methodologies if they were updated and improved. So from there, Erwan decided to fully dedicate his training and research towards real world modern skills and physical competency. At that point in 2008, while living, training, and instructing in Brazil, he worked on synthesizing his knowledge, experience, methods, and principles into creating an entirely new training and coaching system, which is what he's doing today. He defined an overall approach based on natural tenets, which better fit the concerns and expectations of people today, and MovNat was born. And so what's amazing is that you were doing, I think, a lot of things that became very popular later, right? And so maybe I think you're at the forefront of some of that natural movement, like jumping from house to house, things of that nature. That I think we saw a lot more of after you started. Erwan, thank you so much for being here. What else do you have to add?
Thank you for having me, Dennis. Great, very detailed presentation. What I would add is what I've been working on in the last few years, which is a new method called breathful work, which is learning to hold one's breath. There are plenty of physiological benefits to it, but most importantly, it's a school of mental fortitude. Because you imagine when you hold your breath, you're under stress, and you must learn to handle that stress with composure, patience, trust, and other qualities of the mind which you need, but which you also then train and acquire as a result.
Awesome. A lot of different breath models out there today too. People are doing it for relaxation, calming, along with yoga, but along with a lot of intensity training as well too. maybe doing it with saunas and cold baths and workouts and breath work. How do you coordinate the breath work into what you do?
My personal breath work approach is actually, I call it breath hole work. So it's a little different. When people train breath work, when they do a breath work exercise, they typically expect to manage the moment, a temporary relief, a nervous system regulation. It means they feel dysregulated, they feel edgy, and then they are going to use one or several breathing exercises to feel better. My approach is very different. I do that too. Means that I teach people how to breathe, teach people how to calm their nervous system, and that's regulation. But ultimately, the system that I teach through breath holding is a method that leverages the power of stress, a mild temporary stress that we all know happens when we hold our breath, to train the qualities of the mind that we all want and need, that I already mentioned, the ability to trust, to relax, to be patient, to be composed, to not let your mind race, etc. But when you do that systematically, what happens is that it's not just a punctual regulation anymore. It becomes what I call a recalibration. To put it simply, you will actually shift the nervous system baseline. It will become more resilient. So it's not just the management of the moment. You basically really improve your mind, your mindset, your cognitive abilities to pay attention and to regulate your mind and your nervous system, which is the physiological aspect of the mind, the body.
Great. I appreciate that. We'll get more into the details of what MovNat is in just a moment too. So I always like to start out, my first question that I have for everybody is, who are you? So who is Erwan? What is your why, purpose, passion, and principles? What is it that you do? Who is it that you are, and what is it that you do? If you could sum that up briefly. Yeah, what does that look like for you?
I see myself as a teacher. I see myself as an educator. All the things that I have learned and practiced and experimented on, and whatever of value I believe I have gathered and acquired in my life through all different pursuits, I have turned them into systems. Why? Because it's how you share the value of what you've learned, right? Either it's just you did it just for yourself, and that's, by the way, that's the base, that's the foundation, that's what drives us to do anything. We want to gain for ourselves, we want an improvement, a reward. But ultimately I realized, wait a minute, this could really help a lot of people. And so in order to present something that's a system that's going to work for people, it needs to be turned into a method. It cannot just be an idea. You cannot just tell people, hey, go move outside. Like, remember when you were a kid, just do all kind of things going to work for you. That's just a tip. That's a suggestion. That's not a method.
Yeah. I find that amazing. The older we get, you, myself, others in the coaching business, doing things such as this too, right? I look at it as, I wish when I was a young kid, I had more people in my life that were mentors, experts in fields that I could go pick their brain, learn from the mistakes that they made, learn from the things that they learned, right? Their experimentation, because that newer person becoming involved in something that interests them will be able to 10x, 20x, or at least we're hoping that they're going to 10x, 20x their path than it took us to take as well, because we've learned some of those life lessons.
Right on, Dennis. You are basically you're pointing out an elephant in the room. What you're talking about is mentorship. It's what has been, for the most part, taken out of modern society. The transmission of knowledge, of insights, of know-how that used to be transmitted from generation to generation. Now kids are sent to school, and that's the place where they're supposed to learn
Mhm.
a lot, not everything, but a lot. We do learn a lot. Um, Cognitive skills, writing, learn, math and things like
Mhm.
that. It's just knowledge of that kind. But that's not life mentorship. And you're talking about the practical side that would enable us to be better prepared for life as young adults, and then moving forward.
Mhm.
And that piece is missing. And so we end up with generations of adults, of grown-ups, who have to not to relearn, but to learn in the first place for the first time a number of aspects of knowledge of the body, how to move, how to breathe, how to think,
Mhm.
to behave, that they have not learned when they were younger, should have.
Yeah.
And that one line that you said, I wish I had learned that when I was a kid. You wouldn't believe how frequent that comment is on
Mhm.
social media whenever a form of knowledge is being discussed, or introduced, and people
Mhm.
are, wow, this is game changer. Or this would, I wish I had learned this as a kid because as a result, I wasted years or I made mistakes that I could have avoided.
I think Erwin too. There's so much information out there today. It's not that there's a lack of information. There's plenty of information, right? But the bottom line is having a coach, having a mentor, being in a community of practice of like-minded people that are involved into the things that you do, whether that's the breath work or the movement, et cetera, right? Um, that's what keeps us going, to be dedicated and committed and accountable, right? You're held accountable when you're working one-on-one or a small group, et cetera, because it's out there. People would have had success in it because there's plenty of information out there. But the bottom line is when you have that mentor, they have proven systems and strategies and tools and practices that they've learned as well. And again, you're shortening that gap, right? That time period. And then you're also among those persons that are helping support you, right? By having that support system. So all that information on the internet out there, but that is not supporting you to do what you do. And you mentioned it too, right? So the moving, the breath work, the emotional resiliency it brings to be a better human, right? A better person, a better husband, a better father, a better coach, a better employee, better whatever it is for you, right? Um, these things aren't taught, right? We're not teaching this to kids in elementary school, junior high, high school, maybe certain college, university type degrees would begin to start delving into some of these types of things. Yeah.
Yes, and that's something you do for you, but it's also
Mhm.
something that you do for the people around you
Yep.
because your entourage either suffers of who you are when it's
Hmm.
unpleasant or benefits from it
Hmm.
when it's clear and insightful and righteous.
Hmm.
So, or useful, or sometimes it's useful in practical ways, such
Hmm.
as I can fix this because I learned to. I can be of help because I made myself strong and healthy and capable enough so that I can be of help, as opposed to
Hmm.
somebody neglect
Yeah.
themselves and become helpless as a result to
Yeah.
themselves and others. So you
Yeah.
see, there's a bit of a hidden morality there. It's the first degree of morality is to oneself. Why wouldn't you do what's required to acquire essential skills, essential knowledge, so
Hmm.
you become a more capable, more competent person, more confident person for yourself, but also potentially for others, people you know, and even to perfect strangers whenever you need. Okay, so that's
100%.
one. So why I'm talking about that, because this is the morality, that's the moral consideration, the drive that underlies the drive to learn and the drive to practice, regardless of the surface methodology, protocol, program, discipline, whatever you want to name it. What they all will have in common is what I mentioned, is that idea that you can be a better version of yourself.
Yourself. Yeah.
Yourself and for others.
So we kind of already started answering and moving into my next question. What's it like to be the MovNat founder, right? And so what I'm getting so far, teacher, mentor, believing that it's everyone's universal biological right to be strong, healthy, happy, free. What else? What else? What lights your hair on fire? What is it like to be the MovNat founder?
What is it like to be the MovNat founder? It's a role that I assigned to myself, not a status that I wanted to acquire. So the status in itself doesn't really matter. I'm not waking up thinking I'm the founder of MovNat or anything. When I talk to my team, what matters to me is what is the effect, the impact, the outcome for people, and what we're doing, and to know that it's, like you said, there's so much information out there. There are also so many options. If, let's say, you decide to be physically active, there are so many programs available, so many protocols or methodologies, whatever.
And I think sometimes, Erwan, too, when I first meet with a client, right, I do an interview. I do a detailed 45 to an hour minute interview, right, and I'm learning about who they are, and we go through a lot of coaching type questions, and tell me about what you've done in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, et cetera, right. The MovNat approach is natural, physical. It's education. It's how you intuitively moved as a child. It's about jumping, moving on all fours, balancing, running, climbing, and so on. It's all natural movement for people, right? And so the military promotes this. Always body type movements to start, right? Before we even add in any type of weight training, et cetera. This is who we are as a baby, right? And we move on our life from there. What else do you have to add with regards to the MovNat approach, and maybe again how it is maybe the same or a little bit different from what's out there? Kind of you mentioned already.
Oh, well, you said it. It's natural movement, and that's why, by the way, I coined the term and I explained it, because it was missing from the conversation, from the picture. So back in the days, fitness was all about gyms and exercise machines and whatnot. But the idea that we could become fit by just training the very natural movements that are universal to all of us, that did not exist. But when we look closely, it exists in diverse forms, even though it looks hidden. It is somehow hidden. Like you said, in the military, what matters is not the size of your biceps. It's going to be, can you go through the obstacle course? Can you pass all the obstacles? And can you do that without hurting yourself and fast enough? It's very practical, because that's all that matters. It's not about cosmetics. They don't care what you look like. They don't care if you're slim or big or tall or.
It's unique, right? Because I myself, I don't care how pretty I look, right? And so to me, it's about being healthy, about physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, and I want to be strong, right? In general, right? And we have the term that I want to be hard to kill, right? So I want to be hard.
So it's the function that matters. It's the competency that matters, the capability that matters. So the approach to MovNat is based on those natural movements. Why? Because they are the ones, it is those movement abilities that are vital. Not only they're universal to all of us, they're vital to all of us. So if something happens, you're not going to play ping pong or do yoga for your life. You'll hear run for your life, but maybe you'll have to jump an obstacle for your life. Maybe you'll have to hang and climb for your life. Maybe you'll have to pick up and carry somebody over a distance for their life.
Yeah.
It's always vital because it's practical. And when you look at all the sports today, they're all based on natural movement.
Mm-hmm.
With those basic universal movement abilities,
Mm-hmm.
Football would not exist, soccer would not exist, tennis would not exist,
Mm-hmm.
swimming would not exist. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
basketball would not exist, etc., etc., etc. As a matter of fact, even bodybuilding would not exist
Yeah.
because you would have a body, but we need to understand the body, the human body, the way it is shaped and the way it function was
Mm-hmm.
not designed that way so that we can do bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Nothing against bodybuilding, but it was designed that way so that we could move in natural environments in all these practical and
Mm-hmm.
potentially vital ways.
And I think a lot of sports, or when have in season and out of season training, right? And so these days too, I think a lot of sports and trainers for different athletes maybe have evolved to where they have out of season they're doing a lot of lifting, heavier maybe things, sprinting, but then in season they work on a lot of attributes that it takes to actually do the sport itself. How do you see maybe those two things competing with each other or not competing with each other to help prepare you for that sport?
Oh, I don't think that there is any competition. If you are into specialized sports,
Mhm.
you still are relying in your performance, your physical performance relies on a body
Mm-hmm.
built for the whole scope of natural movement, not just the one particular physical ability that is your sport. So the practice of natural movement means squatting, moving on all fours, balancing, do some jumping, climbing, etc., is the foundation that enables your body to be fully functional and very robust, very resilient. Whereas when you dismiss all of that, you end up with a hyper specialized body that is way more prone to injury. So the way I look at it is that if you choose to be a specialized athlete, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, often there is specialization within the specialization. If you say, "Oh, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
runner, that's my specialty." Okay, what kind of runner are you?
Mm-hmm.
On what terrain? What distance? There are how many
Yeah.
running disciplines? So it's a
Mm-hmm.
specialty, or it's specializing within the specializing.
Mm-hmm.
So my take and my invitation would be consider incorporating a variety of natural movements that would normally be your everyone's day-to-day physical behavior
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of variety, for the sake of function, for the sake of health. That would be a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run through really quickly 12 principles of MovNat, and if we can maybe pick out one or two, just highlight one or two. It might not be possible, but if it
Oh,
is, we'll. but we have
that.
it's practical, it's adaptable, it's efficient, it's mindful, it's vital, it's instinctual, it's cooperative, it's environmental, evolutionary, unspecialized, universal, and progressive. If we could take one of those or two of those right now to chat about.
So these aspects of principles would describe what overall natural movement is. But yes, if we were to want to understand why it sets this type of
Mhm.
physical activity apart, it's because it's practical and it's adaptable. So practical means that you are achieving something undeniable. Let me give you an example. If I do an exercise, if somebody does an exercise like a typical conventional exercise, let's say a push-up,
Mhm.
may ask, what muscles are you working out, or what is this good for? Because they look at it as an exercise, not a movement. So they want to know what's the gain, what's the benefit, what body part it targets or something. Okay. Now, if you see somebody who is balancing or jumping over like an obstacle, the reason to do it is obvious. And why? Because it's practical. You're clearing an obstacle. You're balancing across a narrow surface to go to the other side. You're covering that distance running. You are lifting and moving that load, that object. You can think of it as of an exercise. In that case, you're thinking, oh yeah, great for strength. If you do it very explosively, then it's power. If you keep repeating it, then it's metabolic training. Okay, but most importantly, what's the practical nature of what you're doing? You are moving an object that's heavy from point A to point B. That's practical. So I like that idea, because that means that the movements you're doing makes instant sense to you. You don't need to think of, oh yeah, I'm doing this because it's good for that and that and that. When you move an object with that practical mindset, you're just thinking, I'm becoming better at moving a heavy object over a distance. I'm becoming better at moving the heavy weight that I am, or like the body that I am, the object that I am, over a terrain, over
real world utility for everyday life. It's the things that we're doing every day by taking the groceries in, or picking up the baby, or whatever else, right?
Real world usefulness. And the second aspect is adaptable, and this is very important. Adaptable to what? Adaptable to variables, to the terrain, to the context, to the situation. To, let's say you run. Okay, where do you run, and how do you have to run? Okay, so that's the context. Where do you run? Those are environmental variables. Running on a slippery, muddy terrain and running on concrete is not at all the same experience. Running on a flat terrain and running on an uneven terrain, like in the woods, not at all the same experience. Also, not the same adaptation.
Being in law enforcement, wearing 30 pounds extra a day on me, very different, right?
Completely
under load.
Right. And so if you just say, well, I'm running, and I'm always running on the same terrain, the same loop, at the same pace, you're not thinking of those variables and the adaptability that you will need, and the adaptations, physiological adaptations and motor control adaptations that you will need to be good or better at those diverse variables. So the moment you need to run longer than what you're used to, or faster than what you're used to, because of a situation, well, you're not ready for that. And the moment you need to get out of that predictable flat surface to go onto unknown or uneven terrains, you're not ready for that either. You're going to be clumsy. You're going to slow down. Maybe you're going to fall because you're not trained for it. So your movement is not adaptable.
Awesome. So for someone that is maybe not 100% aware, maybe they're just been the bodybuilder type of person most of their life because that's what they got into. I don't know, right? How is MovNat different than bodyweight training, just calisthenic training, or CrossFit training? So I believe nothing against CrossFit. People, I love my friends that all do CrossFit. I've never done CrossFit myself. I do CrossFit light things at times, right, with high intensity interval training. But you and I know there's a lot of people out there still doing this type of work, right? So what's the difference between MovNat, regular bodybuilding type training, calisthenics, and then CrossFit?
I'm laughing because it's almost like, oh no, please don't say anything. Not even about CrossFit unless if it's positive. Otherwise, this is going to be an issue. Why would it be an issue? It's we can say what we want. We all have different views, and that's okay. Bodybuilding. Well, bodybuilding is the idea of shaping the cosmetic side of the body to look a certain way that is bulky, but that is also sculptural, so that is agreeable to an aesthetic criteria. It's an agenda in itself. There's nothing wrong with it. Not personally my cup of tea, and obviously not natural movement, since
sitting in machines. A lot of it's sitting in machines.
yes, so heavy use of machines, but even when you don't, it's mostly segmental movement, partial movements.
Yeah, not a total body movement. Yep.
Right, for hypertrophy. So the practical and adaptable aspect of movement is completely dismissed because it doesn't matter. All that matters is the effect on the outside look of your musculature, of your body shape. Okay. Calisthenics, a great practice. To a degree, partial natural movement, some very impressive feat of strength, both dynamic and isometrics. Wonderful type of training if you don't really have access to terrain or to a variety of terrain or equipment. But very specialized too, because you're not running, you're not lifting or carrying or throwing or catching anything, you're not really balancing on anything, you're not jumping. So you're basically hanging to a bar, vertical bars or horizontal bars, and doing movements like that. You can also do in calisthenics, you can do movements on the spot. It can be considered calisthenics, burpees and things like that. So it's closer to GPP, general physical conditioning.
Yep.
And at the same time, not being that general. It's actually still very specific, if you ask me. CrossFit gets way closer to natural movement without really being it. What's missing a lot is the adaptability. It's not fully missing but it's mostly missing. I'll give you an example. It's still by the way, still the notion of GPP, general physical conditioning. It's diverse. Well, it's not as diverse as natural movement. I'll give you an example. Jumping in CrossFit. What is the jumping they're doing? For the most part, it's jumping up and down.
Box jumps.
Box jump. Okay. So box jump, what box means is the description of the environment where it's done on a box. It's not the description of a movement pattern or a jumping technique. So what you do when you jump up and down, it's an upward jump followed by a downward jump. And the environment where you do that is completely predictable. It's stable. It's flat. It's linear.
Very controlled.
So you will adapt to that, but adaptability does not mean being adapted to one variable. It means being adapted to many variables. That's when you become adaptable. So what will happen to a person who trains CrossFit thinking that GPP, doing the box jump as one jumping exercise, should normally prepare them for any kind of obstacle? Is that actually going to be the case? No. Not.
Doesn't help you jump. It doesn't help you jump over a fence.
Jumping over a fence, jumping and landing on an unstable surface or a narrow surface, jumping from a balancing position where you need to balance yourself already before you jump, and then landing in a balancing position as well. So there are diverse techniques, and I was only mentioning a few of them. There are many more. More jumping techniques, so jumping movement patterns, and way more environments. And if you don't train specifically for those, you are not ready. You are not actually capable. So the only capability that you train is that which of going up and down, by the way, typically very mindlessly, which means not really technically. Why? Because there's not really, well, the number one reason is because all you can think about is speed and volume, or for stamina, for metabolic conditioning, not really technique, accuracy, and balance. Two, even if you're mindless, even if you miss, what's the consequence? Nothing. You're not really going to hurt yourself. But out there in the real world, that it is in natural environments or urban environments, you do one jump, you have one shot, you miss, you can kill yourself, you can hurt yourself badly. The mental aspect, the mindful aspect of your movement, the technical aspect of your movement is extremely important. And in the CrossFit mindset and approach, you are not training that at all. So if you believe that that's going to make you ready for anything,
and that's why I mentioned a little bit too. I think some trainers specifically for athletes, and I actually don't like when I hear that trainers are referred to their clients as my athletes, right? So because generally, unless you are a coach with athletes, you're coaching moms and dads and regular people. So, but that's what in season, out of season, like I mentioned, and I think a lot of people are doing a lot of things for cross type training as well. So let's talk about people that want to add MovNat, or can you do MovNat with lifting in the gym and doing CrossFit or doing martial arts, things of that nature?
Can you ask the question again? Just want to make sure that I understand.
Can someone do MovNat and still bodybuild or lift weights or run or do martial arts, etc.? Because I think a lot of people do want to cross train today, right?
Yes, it's the same way somebody can be a runner and do yoga, or a rock climber and do Tai Chi, or a CrossFitter and do free diving. You can even do CrossFit and do MovNat. The thing is that there is nothing that is missing from MovNat. Means that we also can do metabolic training, like hard workouts, very intense. Simply that it's not the, let's say, the chronic emphasis. Why? Well, because a lot of practice must be dedicated to technical training. Think of it this way: is martial art are martial arts natural movement or not?
I think some yes and some no. I think throwing a punch and kicking, yes, but some things that they're doing in BJJ, absolutely no. It's very learned, right?
Right, exactly. So, but the idea is that the idea of throwing a punch, of kicking, of throwing an elbow, or a headbutt, or parrying and avoiding blows, or to wrestle.
I think those are natural movements for people.
Exactly. So what is the difference between that and the more systematic and technical practice? It's the idea of become highly efficient. It's you want the outcome of it to be higher than what just instinct can bring. Sometimes instinct is the best and sometimes not. So if you apply that to all the natural movements, running, jumping and landing, hanging and climbing, throwing and catching, balancing, moving, of course, all the movements you can do on the ground, etc., you realize that there are technical principles and aspects to each of them, and that you can learn them and practice them to improve your game, basically. Right? It's the exact same thing that we do in martial arts. Sometimes it becomes so sophisticated that it's literally artificial.
But yes, sometimes martial arts does do that. Yes.
The principle of turning what is innate and instinctual into something that is mastered and very efficient is the exact same principle that applies to MovNat with natural movement. Natural movement is the base, it's the instinct, something that belongs to everybody. The practice of natural movement as a systematic approach, technical approach. Now that's the MovNat method. So So yes, you can train CrossFit because you want to have the emphasis on the metabolic side of things, and MovNat, which will also have metabolic applications, but also the coordination, well, obviously there are aspects of that in CrossFit as well, but like I said, it's limited. So if you want to become really technical, then you go MovNat. And yes, anybody can train more than one sport, more than one discipline at once. It's not necessarily, it's complementary. You know, it's rare that you see highly specialized. It's typically when practices are highly specialized that they have more potential to confront. So, for instance, if you want to do ultra trail but be a bodybuilder,
Those are very much in competition with each other. Yeah,
if
they don't really go well together.
what you're seeking is the satisfaction, then and not the performance, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're seeking performance, you're going to have to make a drastic choice.
Yeah.
They don't work together.
100%.
Right.
Hey, Erwan, for time purposes, we need to move on a little bit. I got just a couple questions left, right? We're getting very tight on time. Tell us about your books, online academy, courses, events, certification that people can come get from you.
The book is called The Practice of Natural Movement. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's published by Victory Bell. It's the same publishing house that, for instance, published the Supple Leopard by Kelly Starrett. So there's the book, but otherwise it's movnat.com, movnat.com, and we have a diversity of e-courses so that people can learn on their own from home. But also we have certification workshops where we teach people how to teach others. Often people do it to be able to teach themselves, basically. So what's interesting is that, but we also have, of course, a lot of professional fitness who take that certification. But what's interesting is the protege effect. Is that when you want to learn something faster, more effectively, you think of how you would teach it to others. That's what's great about certifications, is that you know that you want to learn something for you, but that you're going to also learn how to teach it to others. And therefore you learn it faster and better that way.
As an instructor myself and owning my own business for almost 20 years as well, I promote that with every client, every student. You may show this to somebody, right? In what we do, especially in the martial art world, right? Or fitness, teach someone how to lift a kettlebell and swing a kettlebell. You may show someone how to do this, right? So you become an expert at it yourself. All right. Last question. What advice do you have for the beginner, woman, police officer, military personnel, people that are just out of shape, with regards to like, hey, where do I go? How do I get started? I'm confused, right? Something that I did before is not working for me. What advice do you have for this person or these type of people?
All right. A very simple advice. If it could go to a local playground or your backyard or a neighbor's or a friend's backyard, some, and then you start having fun, exploring. Imagine that you are that little boy or that little girl again for a moment, free of concern for whatever anyone says or thinks. And you want to see, oh, can I move on all fours? Can I balance on that board? Can I jump up and down that, 1 foot elevated wall? Can I get up and get down easily? In what ways? Is there one way? Is there more than one way? We teach several techniques. It's not just the Turkish get up. There are so many ways.
The Turkish get up. When we go offline, I have to talk to you about the Turkish get up. I'm doing a specific program right now with a bunch of TGUs in it. Awesome.
Yeah, so that would be my invitation. No rule, no particular context, just your desire to re-explore something you've experienced as a kid, because we all have,
Yeah.
and that back in the days felt amazing, didn't it?
Mhm.
And to reconnect with that satisfaction, with that pleasure, with that inner drive. Number one, if that's something you're gonna enjoy already, that's great. If that's something that's going to challenge you, then ask yourself, ooh, what changed in my body? Maybe what changed in my mindset? And is it a good thing that I don't take pleasure in doing that, or that my body aches everywhere? What does that say? Okay. And then you may want to consider learning more formally, in the same way you would knock at the door of a local martial arts academy, uh,
Mhm.
so that you can have instruction that's going to boost your progress.
Mhm.
So that's what we do at MovNat.
And I think that's awesome too, because you went from, real quickly from, being baby to child, moving, becoming an adult. And what I'm hearing almost said, that you kind of mentioned that we get to a point, a lot of people, where they stop moving, right? And it's about reinvigorating what they used to do. And
Yeah.
if I can't do those things, why can't I do those things? And it's
Right.
probably because we
Well,
have not been doing those things, right? So getting moving again is extremely important.
it is, and we have not actually stopped moving. What happened is that we have overly simplified
Life.
our movement behavior on a day-to-day basis. It's actually highly impoverished, and here's why. If we look at the movements we do, because nobody really stops moving completely, but I get your point, and it's a great
Yeah.
image. But I kind of want to give people like a chance to
Mhm.
consider the fact that they're not really stuck in their movement. It's just the conventions of modern society makes it acceptable that the only types of movement they're going to do in a day is stand up, walk a few steps, sit, stand up, walk a few steps,
Yeah.
sit, typically sometimes for hours, then finally stand up, walk a few steps, and that's going to be it. And then when they wake up, they'll be like, oh my God, maybe I need to go to the gym or something, which is cool. Or do some push-ups or something, which is okay. But it's not changing anything about the bulk of your movement behavior on a day-to-day basis. It's still very simple. There's no variety. There's no intensity.
Mhm.
It doesn't change. It's very predictable. It's very boring, and it's also very linear. So stable, flat, stable, safe, indoors, artificial.
Missing
Surface.
some of those MovNat principles that I named. Right, right.
Right. So you have stopped. You have not fully stopped moving, but
Mhm.
you definitely have stopped moving in all the ways that you should never have
Yeah.
stopped, which is that diversity and that intensity I'm talking about, but
Mhm.
also the
Yeah.
interaction with a variety of environments, real world environments, just like when you were kids and you were going to the playground to play and have
Mhm.
fun. You are doing that for the variety, the intensity, the adaptability, and the fun, the
Mhm.
challenge and the fun. Where is all that gone, and why would it
Yeah.
have to be gone from your life? That is the question.
Awesome. Erwin, we're going to have to call up for now for our time. I greatly appreciate it. It leads to one of my mantras in life, though, right? When I'm doing something hard, whether it's a long ruck or I don't want to do a workout for the day because I'm tired or didn't get enough sleep, right? And one of my mantras, Erwin, I'll share with everyone, right, is just keep moving. So it doesn't matter whether you're 80 years old, 90 years old, 60 years old, right? Wherever you're at in life, continue to push, right? That 1% better every day in every way. Erwin, I want to thank you for being here. Everybody visit
Thank
MovNat
you.
on the web. Check out his programs. Get his book on Amazon. Stay on for a minute for me. Until next time, you know the drill. Train hard, train smart, train safe, train real, and train for life. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Erwin.
Thank you, Dennis.